Coming in at number 11 on our organizational value rankings, it's Ridley Greig.
Ridley Greig? Oh man, I was not expecting him to be in this position. I wonder who's going to be next. But yes, Ridley Greig is the guy we're going to be profiling here. I think this is a great spot for him as a 28th overall pick. He's someone that he came into the NHL, Ross, his first NHL game, he gets 8 shots. Like, this kid was coming in shooting, and he made a big impression.
Even before that, his first preseason game, he scored maybe the goal of the year right in front of our eyes in Winnipeg last year.
It's true. That was an absolute beauty of a goal in the preseason. And he got a little taste in Belleville as well. He got 7 games, 1 goal, 2 assists right away. That was in 2021. Then he had to go back to the Brandon Wheat Kings. And then he got to play in a playoff game with Belleville. He had an assist there. And then last season, he split his time between Ottawa and Belleville, 20 games in Ottawa and 39 games in Belleville. And in those 39 games in Belleville, he had some pretty good success, 15 goals, 14 assists for 29 points. And I think this season for Ridley Greig could be similar to last one, Ross, where we see him maybe split his time between the 2 leagues.
He is the first player that I put left wing / center because I really don't know where his future is best. I think that he's shown, and the organization has shown, that they want him to be a center. He played exclusively center at the AHL level last year, but when he got called up, even though Ottawa did, like, he was center, but like he didn't really play center. You know what I mean? He played on a line with almost exclusively Claude Giroux, who took faceoffs for him, but then he played the middle, right? Like he played the middle on a line with DeBrincat and Giroux for a lot of the time of the 20 games he was up. They want him to be a center. But is there room long-term if Shane Pinto is going to be a guy who's here for a long time? Because down the middle, you could do worse than having Stützle, Norris, Pinto, and Casti as your top 4.
Couldn't do any better, though.
I'm of the mind, and look, I have the age here too now. I've added this in for the top 11. 21 years old, just turned 21 in August. One of the youngest players in that draft class. And this might come off as a hot take, Pilsy. I think he should be the top line center in Belleville this year.
Yeah, I don't think that's too hot of a take, Ross. I think that's a good place for him, especially with the AHL veterans that were brought in. I think it'd be nice for him to, play with a top scorer in Belleville and then mix in a veteran on the other wing. And I think he could have success there. And the thing is, I want to see Ridley Greig get more comfortable playing a physical game in the Pro League, right? He dominated in the dub as the captain of the Brandon Wheat Kings, but then in Belleville and in Ottawa, obviously it's a bit of a struggle for a guy of his frame to play the way he wants up against bigger, stronger men. So I would have no issues if he started out the season playing in Belleville and worked his way up. Now, obviously, the Shane Pinto contract looming over will probably have a major impact on where Ridley Greig starts the season. But I see him as a center in Belleville and a winger in Ottawa.
Do you think his game will translate well to the wing?
I think it will, because he's going to be able to kind of focus more on his individual assignments rather than kind of roaming around and worrying about playing defensively. And I think that way he can be one of those guys that's just an absolute pest in front of the net, raising guys' sticks to the rafters like he did earlier in his career, and just pissing off the other team. And that can kind of be his main focus. And then when he's got the other team, when he's under the other team's skin, he can take advantage and score some goals while he's at it.
Yeah, I don't want to undermine his offensive ability. This guy put up
it's there for sure.
Your 3rd best points per game in the WHL. Not this season, obviously his first full year pro, but the year before. It's just there has been some injury concerns, and I feel like some of those have been just from wear and tear and the style that he plays, which is why he's the perfect candidate to over-ripen in the minors and just be able to dominate physically down there. We know that the scoring will come. He scored a goal in each of the last 2 games in the AHL season, and he actually had a point in each of his last 3 NHL games this season, 2 assists, and then a goal against Florida in that 7-2 loss. Funny enough, like the 2 goals he scored in the NHL, he had 2 goals and 7 assists for 9 points in 20 games. His first NHL goal was the 7th goal in a 7-2 win over St. Louis, and then his second goal was the second goal in a 7-2 loss against Florida.
Oops.
So he's still waiting for that important goal. But of course, the most important thing is to get the monkey off his back and getting that first NHL goal. But you look at the range of ice time he played in. There was games where he was playing 8 minutes and games where he was playing 17. So he was getting opportunity. I mean, he averaged just over 14, but I'm excited to see Ridley Greig. And if he comes to camp and earns a spot, by no means can you hold it against me. And I said, be the top center in Belleville. If he comes in and shows he's ready, I'll be wrong. I'm happy to be wrong. It would be good for the Senators to have an entry level contract for the next 2 seasons playing NHL minutes. I just wouldn't. I don't want to force it. Like if Igor gets signed and has a good camp as well, like I'd rather you see what you have in Igor at 23 years old versus a guy who just turned 21 and whose physicality is going to bring him to the next level and be a super intimidating NHLer. So I'm excited that Ridley Greig's an Ottawa Senator, though. I'll tell you that much. Changes to number 71. That's a skill number. Let's see if he can.
Oh, true. Yeah.
He can do some damage there. Yeah, old Zach McEwen's got number 17 there. So, no, really excited about Ridley Greig and to see what's next for him. In a perfect world, he becomes like your Jordan Staal type, right? Like, two-way guy, kind of gets in the mix, good face-off guy eventually, you hope, at the National Hockey League level. But the battle between him and Shane Pinto over the years, I think, is going to be one to really keep our eye out for.
Well, and that's probably what the Ottawa Senators are saying to Shane Pinto in his camp. Like, hey, if you don't play this year, there is a guy that could take your spot. And that's something he needs to be aware of. And Ridley Greig seems like a very motivated guy. I think he's a guy that can get along with most people in the locker room as well. And I think he could fit in pretty easily. And Claude Giroux is hell-bent on helping Ridley Greig start his career off well, as he did everything in his power to try to get Ridley Greig a goal. So I think that would be a great mentor for Ridley as well. If the more time he can spend with Claude Giroux, the better.
What to you? Because for me, it's just, bulking up, getting that physical edge. We know that he's got the mental edge. He's always going at guys, beak and having fun. But for me, it's just bulking up physically. What to you does Ridley Greig need to do to take a step again in the right direction this season?
I think just be that prototypical bottom six guy. Like, I don't really see a world where Ridley Greig is a top six guy, whether it's winger or center. So do those things that the bottom six guys do well. Like you mentioned, play a bigger, physical, stronger game, get under guys' skin, work on your defensive game, make sure you're not a liability out there defensively. Try to get into killing penalties. I think Ridley Greig could end up being a decent penalty killer if he puts the work in and is put in the right position. So those are the things I would focus on. Like, yes, again, I'll echo what you said. I don't want to undermine Ridley Greig's offensive abilities. There definitely is offensive potential there. But for him to make his way and to start having a successful NHL career, it's going to be at the bottom six level. And he's going to have to do those little things right to even get the opportunities to kind of forge that path.
Well, Ridley Greig, initially, right after his draft, was 27th on our organizational value rankings. Then he climbed up to 16. Then he climbed up to 10.
Whoa.
It was 10 until a new addition signed. So now he's down one spot, coming in at number 11, still with 2 years left at $863,000. Great value. It's just how much of his entry-level contract will be played in the NHL. What's his next contract look like? So many questions, but all Ridley Greig needs to focus on is establishing himself as an everyday NHLer, having the physical push, working on faceoffs, all the things that you want these young kids to take the next step in their game. But Ridley Greig comes in at number 11 on our organizational value rankings.